Okay, so now let's work on the GitHub this guy. So first of all, I would like to open up a file which is in here, and this is known as CSS for GitHub searcher.txt. So I've already got rid of lots of nonsense of writing the CSS because writing the CSS in front of you guys is going to be a nightmare for you. It's going to take some time, and basically it's going to just take time, and we don't have time. So let's just copy this and open up your app.css, and just at the bottom paste this everything, and this should look like this. Okay, nothing much changed in here, just the body color right now, and we can just simply close this app CSS. We don't need you, we don't need you. And let's start with the github.js. Okay, so what we'll be doing in the github.js. Now first of all, we're going to use the fetch method of fetching the APIs, and basically it again returns you a result which is which can be an error or can be a response. So basically it's a promise which is handled by .then and .get. So we are going to do that, and we're going to use the constructor as well, so that is going to be good. Okay, let's start in here. Now I want to break it down into two separate components. One will be a searcher, which is gonna be an input box, and that will be handled by a separate component, and the display of the profile will be handled by a separate component, and this GitHub guy is gonna be used for querying onto the web. Okay, so I will right click on the source and create a new file, and I'll be calling this as simply profile.js, and I need one more. So I'll right click on the source, right click new there, and this will be called this as search.js. Okay, that is good. And obviously we are gonna need a skeleton there, so let's quickly throw up a skeleton there. This is a skeleton, so we can copy this and we can paste it in the profile. And don't forget to change this guy. This is gonna be profile. Save that, and this is gonna be again a search, so let's just change that. So there we go. So our skeleton is ready, and one thing I noticed now, I should have actually created the search and profile inside the component. This is the kind of a theme we are following, but I'll just leave them here. I would request all of you to just put that into a component folder. That would be good. Okay, now in this GitHub, since our page is only calling one component GitHub, I would like to import rest of the profile and search thing in here. So let's just import them, and this is going to be simply profile, which is going to import from in our case it's going to be simply /profile. In your case it's going to be inside the components and inside the profile. I hope everybody knows by far now that how to import that. Now don't do my mistake of using component, it's components in my case. And we are also going to import search, and this is also going to come up from search. Okay, there we go, and this is good. Now outside my class, I want to define the API as a constant, so this is going to be a simple const there. I would like to call this as simple API, and this will be accessible by all of the class, and it's going to be really simple: https://api.github.com. Oops, yep, it's right, github.com/users. Now here we can amend this quite a lot, because just after the users, if you just put out anything, let me show you, it's rather easier to show the things just in talking in here. So copy that, and let me show you what you can do is you can just paste it in here and slash, let me just mention my GitHub profile there. There we go. If I hit enter there, it just returns me this much of the data. So we'll be filtering out a few things that from in here. We'll be taking a lot of things. We can take blog, location, and a lot of things. First thing we'll be taking is a name, and we'll be taking a username. In fact, I have already made it up a list what I'm taking. I've already made my mind, but again, it's going to be really simple. If you just want to use any other things as well, you can just grab them from in here. Pretty simple, pretty easy. We have done this API things in the past as well, but that was typical one. This is easy one. And in fact, most of the API that we'll be handling will be just like this, pretty easy one. So let's just go in here and let's just try to work with that. And first of all, I would like to go inside the class and go with the constructor. So rcon for constructor, and notice how much time we are always saving by these components in constructor. Okay, so one thing we are getting is username, and I'll give it a default state of my my username there so that we can have some data all the time. Let's use a comma. I want a name that I'm pretty sure, so I'll just keep that as a blank. Okay, and what else we need? We need avatar as well so that we can display some nice photos there. And avatar, all of these are going to be simply empty strings right now. Avatar. And repos, how can I forget that? Repos is going to be there. How many repos the user is having. And what else do we have? So what can we have? We'll have followers and following as well. That would be good. And we'll have home URL as well. Okay, so followers, there we go. Followers goes there, following goes there. Okay, and we're gonna have a home URL as well, and home URL goes there. And we'll one more have which is going to be not found. So we'll also care about the case where the username is not being found. Okay, so these are some of the states that we will have. Now what we can do is we can just look out for a method. We can define a simple method that will be fetching out all the things in here. Okay, and right now we don't have any input box or anything there. We will be working out on that later on. Right now it's important to just work out with the API and get some data and print that data in the console. Okay, so just above our render things, let's just do or what we can do is let's just do this like that. So it's going to be simply fetching the API. So I'll be simply calling it as get profile. You can call that anything, and it's going to take a parameter. Whenever this is being called, it's going to have a simple username, because notice when we are defining a constant, we are just saying /users. After that we have to give the username as well, and the reason why I have given a username as a default so that I can use it when I call this function as this.state.username. Okay, I hope you get my point. Okay, and we're gonna have a simple, well, let's create a URL in here first of all, because that is what we are gonna request there. So let's call this as base or final URL, and that URL is gonna be, let's use the backticks there, much more easier like that way. In this case is, first of all, it's gonna be the API now, which is accessible to all the class. No need to call that as a this dot or anything. Let's use a slash there, and then we are gonna be providing a $, and this is gonna be username, whatever it is being fetched. Okay, that is good. One thing solved. Okay, and if you like, you can log out the URL as well to figure out whether this is right or not. I'm pretty sure this is good for me, so I'll just use. Now this way of using the API is pretty simple. We can just simply say fetch, and fetch is going to take a URL that is going to be the final URL, and as soon as it does that, we can use the .then, and in the then it is pretty simple. And again, obviously it's going to take a callback function, so it gives us a result back, and I'll call that as result, and we'll use a fat arrow function again in here, and the fat arrow function is going to be simply having res.json. So that is how it's easy. It just gives you a JSON object there. Okay, that is good. Okay, and we can handle the response as well. Let's use another .then. You can use as many then as you wish, and if it gives us a data, what we can do in here as well is, if it gives us a data, then again we can use a fat arrow function, And now I can use a method this.set to set all of the variables in here. So I'll be saying this.set state, and in the set state I'll just use these guys, and basically I have to copy all of these things, copy that and paste in here, and this is gonna be in here. So what we are getting is a data, and notice this is the data we are getting. We are calling this as data. So data.login is the first thing that we have in here, but again it should be outside. So data.login. Okay, the next is name, which we'll get from data.name. The next is avatar, which we will get from data.avatar URL, data.avatar underscore URL, and the repos is going to be simply, rest of the things are pretty easy, like data dot public repo, because it only allows us to fetch the data of public repositories, otherwise private repositories are not accessible. Data dot followers, and this guy is gonna be simply, I forgot a comma there, this can throw out a bug there, and there as well, nice catch there. And we're gonna have data dot following, and the home URL would be data dot HTML URL, and the final not found would be just stored by a data.message. So if it doesn't found anything, it just throw back a message there. Okay, so we are ready to rock and roll in here. And also, in case there is an error, let's catch an error there as well. So catch an error, and to catch an error we can use a callback function in here. So it's gonna have error, use our favorite fat arrow function, and it's gonna simply log there something like we can just get the error, or we can use a custom message there. There was a problem in fetching data. Okay, looks good to me. Okay, and that is it. And in Axios you can also do the same thing that we have discussed, but again I find the fetch as much better. I don't have to call any repositories, and it gives basically simple objects, and I can just work with them. That's much easier for me. Okay, so this is good so far. Now I want this to be fired up every single time the component is mounted. So I'll call it as component did mount. No, not before the mounting. Component will mount will not work here because the component is not yet mounted. I want this to be fired up as soon as the component mounts after that. Okay, so component did mount, and let's call this method. So this dot, and what's your name? Get profile. This is your name. Okay, get profile, and we're gonna say this dot state dot username. There we go. Should does the job, but should not display anything on the screen. But what we can do is, as soon as we get this, and we can just do a quick console log there. I request you to do so. Okay, and I'll like to save this, and notice we are not getting any error, we are not getting any crashes. Inspect that in the console. Everything looks happy. Warning, we are not much worried about. It's saying profile and search are not used. We will use them. Okay. And last thing that we'll be doing in here in this division is creating a section and call this profile and search. So the reason why we are creating a section with an ID of card is because I've actually already written a CSS for that. So that is why we are doing it. So card is there, and let's close the section as well. Okay, there we go. And let's call our two guys. The first guy is going to be search. Let's call this as search component is called, and let's end this. And after that we are going to call the profile as well, and let's end this and save this. Shouldn't be doing much in here, but things are good right now, no errors. That is good sign. And now let's in the next video, let's talk about the search and this profile component. Let's work on them, but in the next video.